What up? Happy Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the black holiday. The black is a black holidays. We don't celebrate 4th of July. Fuck 4th of July is about Juneteenth. Anyways, that's not what this video is about. This video is a quick review on a Netflix doc that I just watched early this morning before leaving the house, and that is Disclosure. Disclosure is when I woke up, I saw on social media that there was a documentary about transness, trans folks, and the history of transness in Hollywood, trans lives in Hollywood, and it stars notable people like Laverne Cox, Angelica Ross, Chaz Bono, a whole bunch of other legends in the trans community, and it like super legends, and it pretty much shows the history. It documents the first cross-dressers to ever be shown on film. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe the one I can remember is a film that dates all the way back to 1914. It was like a black and white silent film. Anyways, I hope I'm getting the dates right. But anyways, like, it shows that cross-dressers, trannies, all the terminologies that's been shown into our community throughout the many years have, you know, been shown in film and television, and how it went from us being the butt of the joke to us actually being humanized today in shows like Pose and man, I done lost my train of thought already. You know, shows like that, and movies that are coming out by LGBTQ people, is showing us as humans and not as the joke, not as the butt of the joke, not just, oh my gosh, it's a man in a dress, you know what I'm saying, like it has been in the past. Just like the documentary They Gotta Have Us showed us how, you know, black people in film and television went from being, you know, first of all, white people in blackface, all the way, you know, and then we had legends, you know, playing the mammy roles and stuff, like in Gone with the Wind and other notable films, you know, Song of the South, Disney, you know, that crap they try to hide, all the way to now to where we're winning Oscar and Emmys and Golden Globes for our stories, our films told by us in a positive light and not in the negative, you know, stereotypical bullshit that Hollywood tried to feed us over centuries. So back to Disclosure, I got that same vibe as the documentary They Gotta Have Us, and I loved it. I loved that it had different spectrums. They did a whole segment on trans men, trans masculine centered folks, because oftentimes we trans men be invisible, especially in film and television. It was always you know, girl pretending to be a boy so she could get something like a job or be in a sports team and stuff like that, and it was never like just an authentic trans person just living their life. And I like that this documentary actually gave trans men, trans mass centered folks a voice. They had black trans men in here saying, you know, sharing their experience and what it was like watching the films that kind of affirmed us but also degraded us back in the day. Like, yes, someone that looks like me is on television, oh, but they're the butt of the joke, or they die, they get killed, or, you know, just crazy stuff. And how there's a duality. Like at one point, like we all grew up seeing LGBTQ characters and we feel like, okay, so we're not weird, there's other people like us. But at the same time, those films dehumanized us to where we feel bad about ourselves and bad about our transness and who we are and our identity. So it was a duality, and I love that the film actually broke that down and they talked about it, and they were like, yeah, there were times where we watched these things that we were proud at the time because we found someone that was just like us, but it also made us feel like shit because it didn't treat us like normal human beings. We were either the villains, you know, the bad guys, serial killers, crazies, psychopaths. Like, or just a joke, just a man in a dress running around, you know. And it's funny how I didn't know this until today when I watched the film. It's funny how the same guy who made Birth of a Nation, you know, that horrible racist film that everybody says is the greatest film of all time, that's some bullshit. You know, it was racist propaganda against black people. That same filmmaker, and I'm not gonna say his name because fuck him, he don't need the more notoriety, you can look it up yourself. He made a film about trans people, about cross-dressers, about this trans woman murdering somebody, you know. And I was like, I've never heard of that film, I've never heard, but I just never knew that existed, and that the same person who made racist propaganda also made a anti-trans propaganda. So it was just like, damn, these assholes have always existed. Transphobia and homophobia has always existed, but at the same time, our people have always existed. So it was just fascinating. I learned a lot. There was even a trans actress, a black trans actress. I'm sorry, I don't have my notes. I wish I remembered names, but I just watched it this morning. But anyway, she's been in so many movies and TV shows I watched as a kid. I would watch black cinema, black movies, black TV shows as a kid, and I did not know she was a trans woman. Like, she literally did not come out as a trans woman until like a couple of years ago, after Laverne Cox became popular and famous, and after Pose and stuff. And that's when she finally decided to do an article in the New York Times, I believe, or the LA Times, I think it was New York Times, and just say, hey, I am a black trans woman. And this whole time I've seen her in so much classic films and TV shows, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea she was a trans woman, because she was living stealth. And she even said it, she said, I did that out of survival, I did that to protect myself, because just like today, back in the day, trans women were getting murdered. Like, shit ain't changed. We just, since the George Floyd assassination and all the protests, we've had at least 3 or 4 trans women found dead since George Floyd's death was telegraphed. So it's like, you know, black trans women in general are still being murdered and beat and abused for who they are, just like back in the day. So I get why this actress hid for so long, like didn't tell nobody she was trans. Like, she passed, quote unquote passed, and you know, people thought she was a real woman, which she is a real woman, but you know, people didn't know of her background, of her trans experience, and so she kept it that way throughout her entire career, and she had a very successful career. And so this documentary is something that I wish I had as a child. You know, it's long overdue for trans people, for any LGBT folks to tell their stories, share their stories, and give the history behind all the bullshit that we have to deal with today. And there are so many dualities to it. And you know, they've also talked about what it means to suffer as being black as well as being trans. And then and even there were some white trans that opened up and talked about how, you know, they you know, their privilege of, yes, we're famous, yes, we're well known, but if we were black, that wouldn't happen. Like, our success, our money, our fame, our starring roles in films and television shows would have never happened if we were white, and also passable. So it was just a great documentary. I urge everybody to see it. It's not that long, it's like an hour and 40 minutes, but it went through, like, I did not want it to end. I wanted more footage, I wanted more of it, but I'm glad that this documentary exists. It's very affirming for me, and I'm pretty sure it'll be affirming for other people like me, a lot of young folks, millennials and Gen Zs, and it was just great. And it was a perfect documentary to drop today. And I feel like if you're black and you're trans, you definitely should watch it. Even if you're not black, if you're trans, if or any LGBTQ, you know, everybody should watch it. This is very educational. I learned a lot. as someone who I thought I knew everything, but I didn't. And it was very good to hear the voices, the legends, the activists who have been fighting for us this time. And you know, I loved it. 10 out of 10. One of the best documentaries. It's probably going to be on my top 10 of the year of films that I've watched. It was just very affirming, very wonderful, very beautifully made. It was great. And thank you for creating this. Thank you, Netflix, for being the platform to put it on. And yeah, I think y'all should go check it out. If you have checked it out, what do you think? Comment below, and I will catch y'all in the next vlog.